This is episode number 130 of the Homeowner Show. Whether you're a DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to Ghetto Narnia. We are
Ghetto Narnia.
It's the White Witch has definitely taken over the land. It is unpleasant outside.
And we have been far enough out of it at this point that it hadn't snowed in 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's still awful outside.
Yeah. It's just gross. I had to shovel snow today.
which is really funny because
I lived here specifically so I didn't have to do that. I didn't want to shovel snow. I didn't want to invest in the Ryobi snow blower thingamajigger.
Yep.
I don't want that stuff.
No.
Get it out of here.
That's right. That's why we live in Houston.
Yeah.
Houston doesn't do this.
I'm fine. I'm willing to make the trade for mosquitoes for snow.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully, Craig, I'm just telling you right now, if we have mosquitoes this spring, I'm going to kill someone.
Well,
they should be dead, right?
Yeah. And if you're not, if you're more sane than Kevin, don't fret. Just call me. We'll get it taken care of.
Craig will kill him for you.
That's right.
If this crazy weather didn't,
I take great pleasure in it.
Hey, you gotta be good at something.
And I feel like we need to address the awkward slant of the room. I was looking at the picture of the studio.
Yeah.
And it really looks like the room kind of has a little slope to it there.
It doesn't.
And it's not. It's just that you guys are sitting in shorter chairs.
Yeah,
I look really big though.
You do. You look massive. But it's literally it's the camera angle over here. It's also the chairs are different.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this is the studio.
This is it.
Welcome to the room. We got Shawn Medlin in the room.
There he is.
We're going to be talking about all kinds of fun stuff here in just a minute. Anything new, Kev? Your power's on.
Well, thank goodness. So, when we recorded our last episode, I was living with you because it was not safe.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Exactly. Great Seinfeld reference. And we actually went home, and 15 minutes after we went home, we came back to your place.
Just couldn't get enough.
No, because what happened was... what happened was...
See, what happened
was that there was a transformer in my neighborhood that caught on fire.
Dude, you showed me the video. It was pretty nuts.
It's intense. It's not just this fire is out of control. It was I thought the pole was going to catch on fire. It was bad.
Yeah.
And it took them, from the moment that happened to the moment I got power back, was 23 hours. And so... I was really, really thankful to be at your place. So, to be quite honest, no, nothing has really changed since we talked last time. But I have power. We have water. No more busted pipes. People are going to be sleeping in their own beds tonight.
Yeah.
And we are happy.
Now, you did have some busted pipes, though.
Yeah. So, I had one on the outside of my house. It was a spigot.
I did too.
Well, I had one on the outside of my house that was this spigot that we fixed.
Right,
you and I fixed, thanks to a kind neighbor down the road had the pipe wrenches that we needed, and the pipe and the spigot, which is a little bit crazy that he had all of those things. But then I had another one, and I still don't know where this pipe goes to, but it is a spigot that comes out of my house, and then there's a T into that spigot that comes out and does a 90 straight into the ground, and it was busted. And so I don't, thankfully there's a shut off right there. And so I was able to shut it off without any issues. And I will address that next week when it is not 25 degrees outside. And I don't know. Maybe that goes to my sprinkler system. That's the best you and I could guess. And we're not going to know that until I can be confident that my sprinkler system isn't frozen. And I'll try to turn it on and see if it comes on.
All right. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But either way, I got to get it fixed.
All right. So let's get the guest in here. Shawn, how you doing, man?
What is going on, fellas?
Yeah, man.
Good to see you.
It's been close to 100 episodes since we've seen you.
congrats to you guys.
Well,
y'all are crushing.
I don't know if we're crushing it. We're just like, we're
here.
stupid and stubborn.
But it is awesome. You were here in episode number 39.
39.
And this is episode 130. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Maybe we should have waited.
We probably should have.
we couldn't wait. That was the problem.
There you go.
Yeah. So I mean, if you guys don't remember, go back to episode 39.
Yeah.
And listen what Shawn has to say, because they had just finished seasons here in Conroe.
Yeah.
And so now you guys have 2 facilities, fixing to break ground on a 3rd, right?
Yep.
Am I tracking?
Yeah,
good
you're
so far?
tracking.
Okay.
You're doing great, man.
All right. So you don't even need to be here. So one of the reasons you and I had talked about coming on the show is like you guys had dealt with this COVID situation. And so now we've got the COVID situation, the ice situation, and you've got all kinds of other situations going on. Like you've just gotten busier.
It's all the things.
All
right?
the things.
It's all the things. So what a great 12 months of being in the senior living business. It's been interesting.
And I want to remind people that may not have heard that episode, that your model for assisted living is, like, in my opinion, superior to most every other model I've ever heard of. And I say that not to flatter you, although I hope it is flattering. I say that to tell you, like, people that are listening, you need to tune in to this and don't stop listening, because the way they do assisted living is by far different than what you're used to. And we're going to get into it a little bit, because my grandparents are in assisted living. My grandma actually passed away back in October, and she was, in assisted living. So we'll get into that at some point.
No, I appreciate you saying that.
Some crazy stuff, but man, I guess one of the things that I know we want to start off hearing is a little bit like, what is COVID like during, while you're trying to operate an assisted living with old people that are very vulnerable, right?
Yeah, so it's definitely the pandemic has definitely made things pretty interesting for really all senior living operators. But it's been tough. Early on, I mean, there's really not a playbook, right? To, how to maintain operations during a pandemic like this. So initially it was very challenging. If you remember, I mean, everyone kind of went on lockdown, no visitors. You had to be really, truly essential to even enter the homes.
Yeah.
And that was tough on both the residents, but then their families as well, who wanted to, they were used to coming by and seeing mom and dad.
Right.
And so to tell them, hey, you cannot come in, that was pretty tough. And, fortunately, I mean, we've been very blessed. We haven't had any COVID issues with any of our residents or staff.
Which is incredible.
You're telling me you haven't had any?
No residents.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It is, and God is good. I'll say this, though. I think it goes back to, I mean, I've been saying this for years, that smaller is better when it comes to senior living. You don't have infectious disease, spreading through a smaller, 5, 6, 7,000 square foot home like you would in a big box facility. And with, 100 employees and people coming in and out all day long.
Yeah.
So we were able to get out in front of that pretty quickly and try to keep the COVID out. But yeah, it's definitely been a tough year for sure.
Were y'all doing any sort of visitation early on? I mean, because you saw a lot of like social media posts early on about like people having to see each other through windows and different things. Like, were you guys even letting anybody on property?
No, they would. You literally had to be a nurse that was coming to see, a resident that was on hospice.
Okay.
And, they had to go through lots of procedures just to come in. Within, a few weeks, we started doing some stuff, through the windows. Once we had a little bit of a handle on exactly, what
this thing was doing.
Exactly. And of course we had a period of time where we were having to round up a lot of PPE and things like that. And that was a whole nother, adventure in and of itself.
Right.
Yeah. What was and what were you guys sort of making your own protocols, or were you guys getting protocols from like the CDC or the WHO, or how did that work for you
Yeah,
guys?
so CDC had their opinions and had their recommendations, and then Texas Health and Human Services, which is the licensing arm of licensed facilities out there, they would have their memorandums that would come out. And of course, it seemed like a lot of it was just, it was literally week by week or day by day as far as the communication, because again, there's not really a playbook.
It changed all the time.
It did.
Yeah.
And so, we were just trying to be really smart and, use, obviously, all the protective things that we could. And my wife and I, we were out looking for hand sanitizer and gallons of it. Doing pretty much the same thing everyone else was, but we were, essentially going back to the state and to CDC to try to, pick up on what some of their guidelines and protocols were. Yeah.
So was your facility? So you got two facilities at this point.
Correct.
One's in Navasota and one's in Conroe.
Yeah.
Were you full at both of those locations with residents?
Pretty full. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say we were at about 90% at least at each home. Yeah.
And so just to kind of put that in perspective, what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, you could take 14 residents here in Conroe.
Yeah.
So when we talk about small, we're talking small.
Yeah.
I mean,
most big box facilities, 50, 100 residents, multiple floors.
Yeah.
Our model is much different. Again, smaller is better. Each of our homes are licensed for 14 residents. Conroe's a little different. It's licensed for both assisted living and memory care. So we serve a lot of residents that have high levels of dementia or Alzheimer's. But yeah, they're small, and anywhere from on any given day 10 to 11 residents, somewhere in there.
okay, so let me ask that question. So you've got people, in your assisted living that have dementia and Alzheimer's, trying to explain to them, people can't come see you. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to be protected. How did they understand, and how did they deal with that?
It's great question. That was tough. Everyday things, normal life is hard for someone with dementia.
Sure.
But then to ask a resident to wear a mask, or, a lot of times that family member was, that was their joy, was getting to see their spouse or their son or their daughter. And when you take that away and you try to explain that to someone, a lot of residents, they kind of shut down. Depression sinks in. That was a really tough part. And I'm, totally convinced that, especially a lot of the deaths, a lot of them in the facilities, they were dying of a broken heart, and they didn't understand what was going on. But they were isolated. And that's how a lot of the bigger places kind of dealt with that, is just, stay in your room kind of thing. And that was really tough.
Well, yeah. And so I mentioned this briefly before we started. So my grandparents were in a assisted living, one of the bigger box places, and they were having a lot of problems where they were. And so we got them moved to another facility that didn't have very many COVID cases at all. It's a good situation. My grandma wound up having to go to the hospital for some stomach issues, which is not uncommon for her. And they told her she had COVID whenever she got there. 0 symptoms, but she had COVID. So once she was done, she had to go to a different part of the assisted living place, away from my grandpa. And it was like months before they were able to get back together to see each other. We couldn't go in to see them. Nobody could really come in to see them. So they were both apart from each other. They wind up putting them back together, and she winds up passing away, which was not related to COVID. It was just her time. But the crazy thing is, we were finding out more and more that they were changing protocols all the time, and all of a sudden we were finding out, well, they can't go over here because they've got COVID. These people have COVID. These people have COVID. These people have COVID. And we're like, what's going on? They were like, well, we've kind of changed some things, and they're actually transporting COVID people here. Like, we've become a COVID place. And we're like, wait a minute.
This place was supposed to be safe.
This place was supposed to be the place that wasn't taking those people, and now you're readily and how are they just willy-nilly moving these people around? Like, what is going on? And I think for people like me who are on the outside, I don't understand. I mean, I'm calling the head nurse there, like, begging her. Like, my grandma is about to die. I know she's about to die. I just need to see her. And I'm like, nope, can't. And so, like, all of these things, and it's devastating.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, a lot of the corporate rules played into that. A lot of the bigger box facilities are, you know, they're corporately owned, and they've got policies and procedures. And going back to what I said earlier, they're really not a playbook for this sort of thing, you know. But there was a lot of panic and things like that. And, you know, we had weeks that felt a little crazy. But, you know, I knew at the end of the day, and again, God willing, nothing will change, you know, that if we could just keep anyone that comes to that front door, to make sure they were screened and properly, you know, tested, and then staff, that they were doing their part when they left our homes to go back to their homes or, you know, resume their, you know, day-to-day life, that they would, you know, still maintain precautions and not bring it back in, because that's our biggest risk, right?
Yeah.
Is a visitor, someone, you know, bring in the building.
Yeah.
So could you, I mean, just so people have some ideas to how this would work, could you walk us through, like, your employees' entrance and exit from the facility?
Sure.
Like, what sort of procedures were they having to go through in order to, you know, try and keep it as safe as possible? And obviously, like, you guys are pretty successful at that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got a whole kind of a regimen that they would go through. And a lot of it is just kind of self-screening, right? I mean, they have paperwork, a log form, the obvious things. I say obvious, this thing's only been around for almost a year.
But I mean, you say that though. I mean, but like, it's become, I think what you're about to say is become very common for everybody to sort of understand in the common parlance of conversation now. Like,
sure.
You know?
Yeah. I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
No. Taking your temperature, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then what kind of retracing your steps? Have you been around anyone that's been exposed or, you know, is symptomatic? And but then, you know, the PPE and the mask and gloves and just really being pretty smart about it. And I got to tell you, I'm just so incredibly thankful for a staff that, you know, just they're so good at what they do. We've got a fantastic administrator. Each home has a coordinator, and then the care team. I mean, they're awesome, and they're very passionate about their residents, and it's like their family. It's like their mom or dad, right? So it's they're very protective, but that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
They're not coming there just for a paycheck. If they really care, and it shows.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about last time you were here was how particular you were on who you hire and the protocols that you put in place. I mean, the cameras that you have available, like all of the things that you're doing for your residents to ensure their safety, ensure that those people that have decided to come into your facility are taken care of with the best care possible. And you do that by hiring the right people. And so, you know, I'm honestly not super surprised to hear that you had employees that were really careful, because, you know, you get what you pay for in so many ways when it comes to that.
And yeah, thanks for saying that. I mean, we do. We take it very seriously. And I'm very competitive, right? When it comes to care.
Right.
I think about it. And then there are worse things to be competitive about, right? But, you know, it's like, I bet I can care for your mom or dad better than the place down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we just take it very seriously. And they've done a fantastic job. They really have. I'm proud of them.
Well, I know we didn't talk about this before, but I still remember my friend Billy that reached out to you.
Yes.
I don't know if anything's happened.
We're still working on that.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember saying like, hey, you need to go talk to this guy, Shawn. And then she went and listened to the episode. And she was like, oh yeah, I gotta talk to this guy. And then she reached out to you and started talking about the situation her mom was in. And as soon as she had that conversation with you about how you guys operate, it was like, I have to. So,
and that's pretty common. A lot of families, and gosh, I can't believe 100 episodes and a little over a year has passed. So much has happened since the last time I was here. And but we've already, and it's been such a blessing. We've already served so many families in this community, and it's been really cool. Just literally about 2 weeks ago, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten letter from a captain of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, and his father had come to Seasons, and there was a quick turnaround, meaning he was ill. And he came in on hospice, and unfortunately, he wasn't with us as long as really any of us had expected him to be. And I never, the way the process went down, I didn't even really get a chance to spend time with the family the way I would like to. And the resident passed. Well, it was such a blessing to get a handwritten card on on letterhead from Montgomery County, just saying thank you. Thank you for the service, to our family during this big time of need, for taking great care. And I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was, whoever, I wish that I could, personally thank all of your caregivers, and they were with my dad when he passed and just made it such a better experience. And so, dude, when I get letters like that or emails or text, dude, that's what it's all about for me. It's pretty awesome.
That's when you get your why.
Exactly.
That's okay. Yeah. That's the reminder of why I do this.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, when we talked to you last time, you were about to open. You hadn't even opened yet. You hadn't done the ribbon cutting, but you had gutted this place. It was this massive house in the center of Conroe, completely gutted it. How has that been? I mean, things been good?
I've all this gray hair you see here. Dude,
I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay, yeah, I know, right? It's dude, there's a lot that goes into renovating a property, and there were a lot of strict building codes in place, and we had challenges.
Yeah.
Even after we opened the home and started getting residents, in the home, we started having some plumbing issues. I think I mentioned that to you earlier. And the home was built in the 60s. It was owned by a plumber, and it was over plumbed. There was cast iron everywhere in the lawn, but after we had opened and we started having residents in there, we did started having a few plumbing issues and found some more cast iron that we thought we had been removed, but it was under the slab. And so we about 4 different entry points, tunnels, going up underneath this big home and cutting out all the cast iron and getting in there with PVC. And
so for those that may not understand, explain to people why that's not a good thing.
Cast iron over time deteriorates and it gets very jagged and it's not as smooth like PVC is, right? And so things that you flush down the toilet, i.e. paper and wipes, which wipes really shouldn't be flushed anyways. Even if they say flushable, really it shouldn't.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Exactly. I tell my kids, no. It gets clogged. It snags on the jagged edges of this big cast iron pipe.
Right.
But back in the day, that was the material to use for plumbing, but it erodes.
So not good, and you had to have it removed.
Yeah,
and
not fun. Not fun.
No, I remember I was on your property while that was going on. I didn't know what was going on, but I was just like, "There's this massive hole outside the back of the."
Yeah, it was a new activity for residents. We were gonna put in a skateboard ramp or something. And hey, dude, I told you we go above and beyond.
That's right.
So it's like, okay, Mr. Harry over here wants to ride the skateboard in the backyard. Right? We'll try to figure it out. Like, we try not to say no too much. Unfortunately, that was not a resident request. That was a plumbing issue.
It was a need.
Yes.
So I'm curious, how are, with all the protocols in place, how how did the family members react? I mean, I know you've got one letter coming in going, "Hey, thank you so much for how you handled this situation." I would assume that there were some in our, like, similar to our situation, where like, dude, part of the reason we came here is our access, and we wanted to be able to, we
want to see grandma.
See grandma,
Yeah.
and we want to take her to church, and all these sorts of things is one of the things that was billed to us whenever we chose this place. And I'm sure on the other hand, there's some people that were just like, gee whiz, man, thank you for making sure that they're safe.
Yeah, but then we had the opposite of that, right? We had, and it wasn't maybe one or two that it was fear-based. I think where the family was they want to see mom or dad, and that's kind of been their security as well. And so when you say no to something like that, that creates confusion, especially if you're trying to create policies on the fly or try to put things together. So most families were like, okay, got it. It's a pandemic. Y'all are following the rules, but then we had some that were upset. They were used to seeing, coming by and having coffee or tea or, just spending time with their loved one. And, when we had to put that on hold, we tried to explain it as best we could, and they eventually kind of got over that. But it was once we framed it like, we're doing this to keep your mom or dad or your spouse safe. It's not we're not doing it just to be mean.
Well, yeah, and I think it's different when that is the way that's communicated. And it's not this weird, shady, by the way, we're backdooring extra COVID people in.
Yeah.
Because that's not safer. That's less safe. You're introducing something into an environment that should have been safe and secure. And not only that, you're keeping me out of it. And I feel like I'm probably more safe and secure than someone that's been tested positive, that you're bringing in purposefully at this point. So, I mean, there again, knowing the facility you're putting your family member in is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Well, and I know my staff probably gets tired of me saying this all the time, but it's like communication really is key. And it's most problems can be resolved or at least, kind of sorted through with really good communication. And to me, even delivering or communicating bad news is properly, but not being afraid to have those tough conversations, even if they're not pleasant. Still, once the dust settles from that, things typically turn out okay. But it's when communication breaks down and things get kind of weird, and it feels like that people are just kind of operating in silos. That's when there's a breakdown, and that's when things get a little weird.
Anytime you have like the sustaining of awkwardness in communication, man, it just gets bad. And then until someone decides to break it, I mean, like, you're only perpetuating the problem, and it's going to become a much bigger monster.
Oh, no question. Yeah. So, a few small sparks can turn into a pretty big bonfire really quickly. And so,
especially when you're dealing with people's parents.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so, again, going back, I mean, we take it very seriously, but like if something's not working or if we've got to make a change on the fly, we're communicating that, very rapidly. So, yeah.
Wow. So have there been any other, like, obviously we just had this massive ice storm that came through, but like, have there been any other major challenges? And I mean, like, one of the things I thought of when you were talking initially, when you kept going back to PPE, I was kind of curious as to like, what were the things that were the most scarce for you guys, that were the hardest to get a hold of? But just in general, have there been any other major challenges throughout this, this time?
Yeah, going back to the PPE, I think initially everyone was, really struggling for masks and gloves and
Are you guys like on a strict N95?
No, now the latest protocol. I take that back. I think we might be on N95 now. I'd have to ask our administrator. She's there day to day. And it still changes.
It's changing. That's the problem.
No, it still changes. For a while, cloth mask was okay, but then it's like so. Yeah, there's a lot of changing protocol. But yeah, I mean, we getting stocked up on that, getting the communication out to the family, those were big challenges. And then just kind of adjusting to the new, I don't want to say the new normal, but the new routines.
Right.
Even with the residents, we had to get pretty creative with activities and just encouragement and really ramping up some of the things we do, because not only are we helping them, we're feeding them, and we're if they're incontinent, we're helping out with things like that.
Yeah.
We're their cheerleader. We're doing activities, and we're boosting the morale, and so that, and our focus was on them, and so that's that if there were challenges, it was just how can we still persevere during a pandemic, and that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, and something I heard you say earlier that I was just curious about. You were talking about getting some of your residents who may be in your memory care side of things, getting them adjusted to wearing masks. How is that? I mean, are they having to wear masks when they're like around each other or when they're around staff? How does that work?
Yeah, so the staff, they wear masks. The residents, if they have a visitor, that we'll ask them to put her on. Those that are, again, they have Alzheimer's or a pretty high level of dementia, we know which ones they're going to be okay with it, and then some they're just immediately, it doesn't matter how you ask, they're going to take it off.
Right.
And so again, it just goes back to being really smart about how we do things. Now, we were one of the first facilities approved in Montgomery County or in this area that was approved by the state to start having outdoor visits.
Okay.
And then almost immediately after that, we got approved for plexiglass visits indoor, because when we first got approved, it was like 100 degrees, every day. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks for letting our residents see their family in the backyard, but
Right.
it's like it's August. It's like
Yeah.
blazing hot.
This is not doable.
Yeah, exactly. So we were happy to start getting indoor visits, but dude, what a challenge, man. I mean, it's like I said, it's been interesting.
Yeah, but y'all still eat well, right?
Oh, we do eat well. We do eat well. Yeah. I think I eat better at season. Well, my wife's probably going to hear this later. I'll just, whatever it is I'm about to say, I'm just not going to say it, because
The food is good wherever you go.
That's right.
There you go.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. Sorry, honey.
All right. So you've got Navasota, you've got Conroe, and there was kind of a hush order put on Craig and me last time you were here because there were some things in the works. Are you prepared to talk about that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we want to grow, we want to scale, and so we did just recently, about 30 days ago. Actually, it was on New Year's Eve, the last day of last year. It was a perfect way to go out. We purchased, made a pretty big land acquisition in Magnolia.
Oh man, awesome!
And it's in a very, very good location, and that we're excited about.
Yeah.
And we are going to build our third and fourth locations.
Oh wow.
So I'm going to build 2 homes at the exact same time,
Oh my goodness!
and they're side by side. So I'm building a little neighborhood of care homes, if you will, but one's going to be licensed for assisted living, and then the other one will be licensed for both that and for memory care.
Okay.
We feel like that there's a huge need in that area, and we're excited. So a whole nother project, and construction is always fun. There's pros and cons to everything, right? But going from the ground up, we feel like that we can still, we know we can still create the home environment. It's going to look like a really big white, farmhouse, luxury style home, and not like a facility. That was incredibly important. So we're in the bidding phase right now, getting bids with architects general contractors, architects. We've already finished the designs. we tested the soil a couple of weeks ago, and of course, if they would have come out this week, it would have been nothing but ice.
And the
but
soil might be
pure.
different.
Yeah, the soil might be a little different, but we're excited. We're going to build from the ground up.
Well, I mean, I think this goes back to something that to me is so special about Seasons, and that is that you're building two facilities, which in any other place would be two wings of one facility, because it's so much cheaper to build one building than it is to build two buildings, but you're intent on keeping it small. Right? I'm guessing.
We have to. Yeah, exactly. So each home will be licensed for 16 residents.
Okay.
And 16 sounds kind of like a big number, but it's really not.
Yeah.
And, we sometimes we're full, but, other times it's, 10 or 11 people. But the way the home is designed and the way it's laid out, you never, and the new ones will have, private suites, private bathrooms. But the way it's laid out, it looks just like a really big 10,000 square foot luxury home.
Nice.
And so, but that's very intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. I was shocked whenever you said two, because we briefly talked about this, but man, that's going to be a really cool piece of property, and people are going to drive by that and go, man, that's cool.
I hope so. It's on a busy highway. So it is, there's a lot of traffic. But I had driven past this land. I mean, I have driven past this land for, since I've lived in Magnolia. And, it's when things start resonating with you so much, it's just like, you start really thinking about it, and everything just kind of came together, and we were able to pull together the financing and take down the land. And now we're, working on all the construction financing and all that. And that's a whole nother deal. But I mean, we're incredibly excited to bring our concept of senior living, in that direction. Yeah.
Well, and I know that you've mentioned to me, and I think you even said it here on the show, that you learned a lot by remodeling in Conroe. And I think a lot of those lessons that you've mentioned to me about this particular project is what made Magnolia appealing. And so maybe for people that are listening that have some influence in the areas that they live, why Magnolia versus and not to say that Conroe's bad,
right.
But like you had some challenges in Conroe that made Magnolia more appealing. What made that a different project for you? Because I mean, like now you feel like you can build confidently, and whereas probably in Conroe you didn't have that.
Well, and yeah, I did. I kind of cut my teeth on the Conroe project.
Yeah.
And, again, what you don't know is what you don't know. And we went into that with, viewing it as through a different lens of, hey, it's a single family home. We'll convert it and put, fire and sprinklers in here, and it'll be very simple.
Right.
And it wasn't simple at all. And of course, the city of Conroe, they had just revised their ordinance, and they just amended a lot of their codes, and they tightened the screws on everything in regards to that type of facility being in a residential area, and really construction across the board. And at the time, it was very uncomfortable experience to have to go in front of the city and ask for this or ask for that, and really not get any variances that we had requested, and we were held to the same standards as the hospital. So that was challenging. So to answer your question about why Magnolia, there's a lot of growth in that area. I love the community. Woodforest is very close by, and of course Windcrest and Thousand Oaks. So there's a lot of families out there, and those families have families that have or will need care at some point. And so we just felt like Montgomery County is our home. I love this area, and there's a lot of growth, so that's why we chose that.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so in this project, do you foresee moving even further? I mean, how far does your vision go?
Dude, my vision is big. Sometimes it can get me in a little trouble because we want to scale, but we want to be smart about it, right? And I do a lot of consulting for other people around the country that want to do the exact same thing, and that's been really cool to help other people navigate and kind of learn from my mistakes. But I'm right now after we complete the construction, we'll have 4 homes with, over 75 beds or however many beds that is. I have to add them up. But, that's, we don't have any partners or investors, and that's us, and our team. We're making it happen, and we'll continue to, if, we feel like that we can, this area can support another, then we'll keep going.
Cool. Well, you've got your fingers into real estate anyway, right? Like that's kind of a passion project of yours a little bit. I love that kind of thing.
No, I do. I love real estate. I'm not a real estate agent,
right.
But I like looking at homes, and of course, every time it's being in the senior living business and doing what we do. Every time I look at a home, it's with a different lens.
Sure,
I see this gorgeous home, and I'm like, man, I bet my grandparents would really love that, and so-and-so's parents, and how could we convert it? So, but I do like looking at real estate, and it's and that's exciting.
Cool. Do you see anything weird going on with? And this is the homeowner show. Do you see anything weird going on with residential real estate right now?
No, if you look at, I think I saw a headline just last week that single family homes way up.
Yeah.
And people are, even through, pandemic aside, they were buying real estate and
like crazy people, man.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. And so, the only trends that I see, and again, I don't live in that space, but is people on the East Coast and the West Coast. They're getting out, and they're moving to Texas or Florida or places where real estate is not crazy expensive.
Yeah, it looks like they're going like Texas, Tennessee, Florida. Some people are even hitting Alabama now.
Man, they're getting desperate.
They're going to Alabama.
I got friends in Alabama. I like y'all.
Yeah, I do too. If we're going to isolate one state, let's at least zero in on Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we can all agree Cajuns are crazy.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but there's a lot of big names coming to Texas too. Joe
Rogan.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And we got Tesla coming.
Yeah.
They're already here, man.
I know.
He was throwing the horns up with the governor.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, there's a reason that I would confuse Joe Rohde and Joe Rogan.
I don't even know who Joe Rohde is.
Oh my gosh. You disappoint me.
Am I supposed to know? You don't know either?
No.
All right, so fine.
Joe Rohde is the brains behind Animal Kingdom.
And okay.
Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Was he the dude with like a dangly earring?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a quitter.
Well, so he retired. Okay. But he has his fingers on so many amazing things at Disney. So anyway, that's why I personally would confuse Joe Rohde with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. I think Rogan's got a little bit bigger audience.
Maybe a bigger audience, but I don't know. Like the number of people that have seen what he's done is probably different.
Oh, for sure. But like here, this is actually something that I think is pretty interesting because and a little relevant because Rogan moved his podcast to Austin.
Yeah.
Because he was sick and tired of certain political atmospheres going on in California and policies and all this kind of stuff. That aside, he's been doing his podcast for 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
The dude is pulling in bigger numbers than like major news networks.
Yes, it's amazing.
And like this is not anything to like to sneeze at. The guy has more influence than Fox News.
Yeah, and
as an individual.
And the fact that his podcasts are like 3.5, 4 hours long sometimes.
Yeah.
And people are listening to that.
Yes.
And waiting for the next one to come. There's times whenever I look at our episodes, go, that was too long. I mean,
Not this one.
yeah, not this one.
Not this one.
But I'm just like, man, you're going on for hours and hours, and your influence is still way up there.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And here's a guy that's just having conversations in like his bunker or whatever that like raised the stock price of Spotify. But I think when it hit, and if you guys know, I don't remember. I think it was like $40 trillion when they announced that partnership.
That's
That's
crazy.
insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I mean, like,
Hey, man, that gives you guys something to aspire toward. Right?
We're riding his coattails a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But
well, I mean, we'll be way bigger. But
Totally.
eventually, I mean, it's time.
That's right.
You know. Yeah,
10 years, I can climb any mountain.
that's right.
So,
But part of that's money, right? He's got so many people feeding into him.
Oh.
Like it's.
He's got a big
amazing.
audience.
he's got a big audience. But I mean, part of it is he did it for like 5 years where like nobody was listening.
Yeah.
You know, he just kept doing it because he enjoyed it.
Yep.
So, but anyway, it's a fun little rabbit trail.
One of the things I want to do before we kind of jump back in here is I want to go ahead and give a shout out to our friends over at Living Safe at Home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys missed the episode where we had Matt and Chase in the studio, they tested our doorknob
Yeah.
to see how bad it was, and it wasn't good.
It was bad.
Yeah,
Like,
it was really, really bad.
On a scale from 1 to 10, it was really bad, y'all. And
The knob went all the way to 11.
yeah. And what's crazy about it is that they tested it and then they sprayed it. They retested this knob
Like 5 minutes later,
and it was virtually
it's okay to open the door now.
yeah. So here's the deal. If you didn't hear it, you need to go listen to this episode because it's quite incredible. And I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I learned is there's a huge difference in cleaning your home and disinfecting your home.
Yes, massive.
And you cannot sit here and tell me that your home is clean if it's not also disinfected.
Yeah.
Right. And it's actually something that I think that our buddy Shawn here could use in their facility at times, because I think everybody could use this in their facility. Right.
And the part of it that really just drew me into their model of going after this stuff is they actually attack the food.
Yeah.
That the viruses and the bacteria go after.
Right.
That's what they're actually getting at. And so like these things actually starve to death. They can't survive in your home because they don't have any food left to eat.
That's right.
So they're doing new construction. They're doing currently lived in, and it's all electrostatic. It's their system. It's their product. They've developed it, and they were doing it long before COVID even hit. These are not opportunistic guys. These are guys that just want to make sure that homes are completely, well, you can't be completely, but to the best of their ability, disinfected. And if you want to get a hold of them, you can reach them at 512-917-8654. That's 512-917-8654. Or you can always email them at info@livingsafeathome.com. And if you didn't have a chance to write that down, good for you. It's in the show notes.
It's going to be right there below.
Yeah.
Scroll down. You'll see it. All their information's there. And listen, just give them a call. See what they can do for you. And here's the other cool thing. If you have a COVID positive in your home, they will get there within hours.
Yeah.
Because they understand that this is a big deal. And the cool thing is, like, the bacteria cannot grow, the bacteria or virus, okay, it cannot grow after they have done this for a sustained period of time.
Right.
So it's not just keeping the person that has been infected safe. It's keeping you and your family safe. I mean, it changes your need to like completely quarantine. I mean, yes, you have to be safe and careful, but you don't have to worry about if I touch that or whatever. They can take care of it for you.
Yeah. Not to mention that it's not going to damage your electronics.
Right. Or
not-
food.
Yeah. You're good to go.
Good to go. So give them a call and be glad that you did.
All right. Any more information, go to www.livingsafeathome.com. That's www.livingsafeathome.com.
Yeah. All right, Shawn, let's get back to something that I think that we need to talk about.
Oh boy.
Unless it's more disinfecting stuff. We can talk about that for a while.
No, I'm over.
Yeah.
it.
You're good.
No,
Okay.
I'm sure they're a great sponsor. Yeah.
They're are
fantastic
but
sponsors.
obviously y'all are doing. And they actually said this: if you're doing a good job at keeping your house safe, hey, you're doing a good job. But at the end of the day, most of the time, it would be crazy to see how much difference they can make. But talking about medical things, so not long after you were on our show, some pretty crazy things happened in your family with your daughter, right?
Yes.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Let's dive into it.
This changed the home front a bit.
Yeah. This did change. It was an interesting curveball. So yeah, right after Marissa, my wife, right after we, got the Conroe home open, we cut the ribbon. We were, firing up the marketing. I was out there hustling and just, letting people know who we are, what we did, that sort of thing. We got the call that, no parent really wants to get, from the pediatrician saying, why don't you guys come back? There's something that's bothering me. Want to talk to you for a bit. And it had kind of been on Marissa's radar. And, she was breastfeeding our daughter, Kate, at the time. And she was only about 5 months old. But long story short, we found out that our daughter, Kate, she had craniosynostosis. And it was which is where the sutures in your skull, they fuse together prematurely. Now this happened in utero, so it wasn't anything that we did or didn't do. It just happened, right? And but it was, it sent us off on this really big journey, of going to ENTs, and then ultimately we ended up at Memorial Hermann in front of a rock star, team of physicians to help us navigate that. But Kate underwent a very invasive surgery where they cut across from ear to ear, essentially across the top of her skull, and unfused that. And I got to give it up to Dr. Wynn at Memorial Hermann. He said, guys, the approach that I want to take with Kate's a little different. And if you're open-minded, I think that the results will be amazing for you. But his approach was to leave a metal rod sticking out of her skull for about 90 days. And we had to get a device. I'm trying to get these words out. It's kind of hard. We had to get a device, a special screwdriver, and turn the rod, a couple of millimeters twice a day. And so as her skull is expanding, this device is turning. And then she had to go and get a follow-up surgery. That was incredibly difficult.
Right.
I think the big thing for us, we didn't see it coming, right? And everything felt like we were on top of the world, and we were, we were excited about opening our new location. And then, something like that happens. And, I'm very blessed. And of course, Kate, now she doesn't know anything happened. Her hair's, covers up the scars, and everything's great. She's a mess. I can barely keep up with her now. She's awesome, but she's very resilient. And, it was a incredibly tough time, but we got through it.
Yeah.
Man, this is something that here's the reason I want to bring this up. Beyond the fact that this is something that's, it's your family. It's hugely important to you. Like, it doesn't really matter what you got going on in your life at work. Your family's huge. You've got to take care of you. Craig and I are huge supporters of you taking care of your family. And there's a lot of different ways this could have gone. You could have gone, look, I don't even know how to handle this. Yeah. And this could have driven you and your wife apart, right? It could have been really, really challenging for you and your wife. You've got this brand new project that you're working on. You could have said, look, I can't let this go by the wayside. Or you could have completely done the opposite, let your project go to the wayside and not focused enough on it while focusing solely on your family. But it sounds like you were able to manage that really, really well. How are you able to manage that so well? When things happen like that, I try to just kind of break it in small chunks, right? It's like, okay, we can't control this. This is totally out of our control. And so
you just kind of got to lean into it a little bit and say, okay, this it's out of our control, but we're gonna navigate this, and we're not. Let me tell you what we're not gonna do. We're not gonna fall apart, right? We're strong. We're gonna get through this, and she will be okay. And but to your point, I think that for some, that could literally make him collapse, or it's so there's been lessons, and I've had other things happen in my life personally where I'm like, really? I mean, is this really happening to me right now? The cool thing is, though, is that when things like that happen, I always try to ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? I try to kind of take a different spin and say, what am I supposed to learn from this? Like, it's like, come on, okay, bring it. Let's go. Well, as since we've had that experience, Marissa, my wife, she's in these Facebook groups that are specific to craniosynostosis, and she's had people reach out to her from across the country that are dealing with the same condition or deformity, and she's been able to kind of help these moms kind of navigate that. So that's been super cool, that she's been able to reach out and help some other people. So I think that a lot of great things have come of it. And again, going back to Dr. Wynn at Memorial Hermann, he did a fantastic job. He thought outside the box, and now I think that a lot of people, even though the condition is very rare, it does come up, and they're traveling across the country to come see him, and so it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, wow. And one of the things I know about you is that mindsets are a big part of who you are, and you you focus on mindset for a lot of different things. So you talking about it's almost kind of compartmentalizing things, but doing so while still cross-referencing the rest of them, right? I mean, did any of that like click in those moments, or were you going, okay, here's where I've really got to use the stuff that I talk to people about, or is it just kind of natural for you?
I'd love to say that it's just totally natural for me, and that, that's just the way I am. But, no, I some of that is skill and just kind of learning from the past. Yeah, I do think that, again, it's so easy to just collapse, or, you see people walking around that are just, they're sleepwalking, right? They're not intentional about what it is that they're doing or the way they're living their lives. And so, being intentional is very helpful. It's very useful because when my feet hit the ground every day, I know exactly what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go and what that's going to look like. But when those roadblocks do come in, or speed bumps or whatever, my approach to dealing with them. And again, a lot of it, is experience of just dealing with bad things. Want to cuss, but I won't cuss. But dealing with, having been dealt a crappy hand of cards, right? And then you're left to like pick up the pieces and navigate that. And so, if you do it successfully, you kind of get some thick skin and you're able to do it. And, I'd like to think that's a skill. I know my wife probably gets tired of me always trying to be Mr. Positive all the time, but, it's just bad things happen every day. It's just a great big portion of that is, how are you going to respond to it?
Yeah. It's very similar to, I've been going through some of the old Jim Rohn stuff with my daughter. And it reminds me of one of his more famous ones, which is don't wish things were better. Don't wish things were better. Wish you were better.
Yeah.
Or don't wish things were better. Wish you had more skills. I think is kind of
exactly. No. Exactly.
And that's kind of what you're talking about is like, you can approach the situation with, why is it this way? Why is this happening to me? Or instead you can go, what is it that I'm supposed to get from this, and then convert it into something where I can become a better person. at the outcome of this.
Yeah.
How can I leverage this situation? Which is a weird way. Some people take that language and go like, "Oh, you dirty capitalist." But like, like what we're actually saying is like, how can you be more optimistic about a really bad situation?
Well, and again, I don't. It's not that I ask for bad things to happen, but when they do, I feel like that I've got like an extra tool that I can use or tap into. But it's certainly better than taking this reactive approach or stance that I just don't understand why this is happening and melting down and things collapsing. It's like, okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
and that's kind of when things happen. It's like, okay, well, we'll figure it out. It's, because I stay in kind of in that mindset or in that, that frame where it's like, okay, if something happens, we'll figure it out, but we're not going to freak out.
Yeah.
I want to freak out, but I'm not going to freak out.
Yeah. So do you have mentors that you go to in moments like this where you're like, dude, I just need to talk? Like, do you have that set up in your life?
I wish, yes, I do. I wish I had more. And then I can think of several that I wish that I probably would have paid or should have paid more attention to. But yeah, I've got several people in my life that and my father's one of them, and where when things come up, that I can reach out and say, how in the world am I going to get through this? Because, when the obstacle comes, it's like, okay, I mean, you don't really see any way around it. And one of the best things you can do is just get around other people and, you get a different reference or, perspective on the deal. It changes everything.
Yeah. And it's no surprise that I actually had a reason for asking that question. I mean, I think that, that is really instrumental in any person's life. Whether I mean, let's be honest. There are people right now that have suffered some major tragedies through this crazy snow apocalypse that has happened. Yeah. Right, people's homes have been destroyed. They've had pipes burst. We're not plumbers, right? Most people in the world are not plumbers. Now we're gonna have to deal with sheetrock. We've got all kinds of things going on in our house. Oh, by the way, insurance has to get involved. All of these things, and you're probably not prepared, and that's okay. You cannot be prepared for absolutely every situation. I don't think anybody expects you to be prepared either. And I think that's kind of one of those misnomers. Like, you don't have to be great at everything. You just have to be good at finding someone who is.
Yeah.
And listen.
Love
and
that.
take advice and just be prepared to be unprepared. Mm-hmm. Right? I think it's possible to be prepared to be unprepared.
A little bit. We can try to plan all we want to, but things are going to unfold.
They're going to happen.
The storm this week, it's been nuts. I mean, one of the nights we packed up the kids, and because we were without power, I finally got water on today. You guys will be glad to know that I did finally get a shower in.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. But and let me tell you, dude, 4 days with no shower, no water, not fun. And the water wasn't really that clear. But dude, it's like, okay, it's hot. And so I got to take a shower.
Yeah.
But yes, so if you don't know a way to figure it out, find somebody that does.
Yeah. And I think that going back to your business and trying to, especially whenever you're trying to navigate a healthy family life and a healthy business life, being able to do those things well is going to take a lot of strategery, right? You got to be ready to be prepared for something to go wrong. And man, I think that it's impressive to me to see how successful you've been in a scenario that there's not a lot of trailblazers out there doing it. There's not a lot of people doing assisted living the way you're doing it, to be able to look at and go, all right, now tell me how to handle this. You're blazing the trail and other people are calling you. So it's impressive.
Thanks for saying that.
Yep, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not Cuomo.
Okay, I got to share a story. I got to share a story. So it wasn't always like that, and it's not. And I appreciate the kind words, but yeah, there were days early on, where we were trying to get the right people in the right places, staff wise, and I did. I worked some shifts as a caregiver.
Okay.
And of course, when someone does call out, of course, it's going to be midnight on Christmas Eve, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because or Saturday night, kind of thing. And so, early on, I've don't let the hair fool you, man. I'll put some latex gloves on and I will care for your mom or dad if they're at, seasons. I mean, that's when you own the business. It's
get your hands dirty, literally.
Literally. But you do what you got to do. But now we've got layers in place, and we've just got a really great team. But when it's it can be a little disruptive, with the kids, and when you say, "Honey, I got to go."
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is, though, and you work it out.
So did you? Did you learn? Did you learn to let go at all whenever things happened with Kate? Like when you were dealing with all of that and you had to dive in, did you had to learn at all how to let go and let your people do things, or were you already really kind of good at letting them manage the way they need to manage? And how hands-on or versus hands-off was that for you?
So when the whole ordeal and the surgery went down with our daughter, we were rampant. We were still in ramp up mode.
Right.
And so it was just a matter. I mean, we had some really good staff in place, some good staff.
Yeah.
And, but we were, I was still giving tours the day before and talking to families and things like that before the surgery. And so we just said, okay, let's do everything we can and just get everything built up, because when we go to the children's hospital, we're going to check in, and you have these grand visions like, dude, I brought books and I have my laptop and I'm going to get some work done and all that stuff. I never opened a book. I never got my computer out.
Yeah.
And it was just 3 days of just being there and just trying to navigate that, her eyes swelled shut and her head and the bandages and all that stuff. And, you just slowly start to emerge from that. But no, we had a good team around us at Seasons that they all, came in. And, I would check in with them, but, we just kind of navigated it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I can't imagine, man. I mean,
I know.
I mean, because it's so difficult when you're used to being hands-on to have to physically be away, and you have those expectations in your head. I'm going to be able to accomplish this, and this, and then once you're in that moment, it just all goes away, and then you kind of have to go, okay, my team has this.
Yeah. And ultimately when it comes to scale, and this is something that I've had to work on, because I can't do all things, right? And at some point you do have to let go and know that we've got good leadership in place, and I don't have to physically be there to make sure that the meal's just right, or the experience is just right, that my team is going to do that. But so I think that's just a growth process of just realizing I can't do all this by myself.
Yeah. That's why you put good people in place to make sure that you don't have to be hands-on all the time, because you trust them.
Yeah. So for goodness sake, be a good person.
That's right.
Please.
Heard that before.
So how did you guys navigate Snowmageddon 21?
Oh, dude, we're still navigating it.
Still navigating it?
I mean, we did okay. We lost power for an extended period of time. Maybe not quite as long as you, Kevin, but I mean, it was, a good 16, 18 hours.
Wow.
And then it kind of came back in stages, but, having 3 kids at home, and the youngest is 2, and climbing on everything. And, interesting enough, we actually took them to Colorado just about a week and a half ago.
Wow.
To go snow skiing and to see snow for the very first time.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Yeah. And then we shipped our ski clothes back to our house, and they arrived like literally 2 days ago. And I'm
Nice.
like, yes. But I'm like, oh guys, there's snow again here in Magnolia. And of course, they were excited, but it was only fun for a little. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, not fun.
That's the hangover from the snow.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that's gonna happen.
Yeah. And it usually happens to Kevin.
Golly, it always happens to me. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that, because I was talking to some people who have kids similar age to me, and I'm like, this was supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
We don't get snow in Houston, and when we do, it's like a dusting, right? It's rarely going to be like inches of snow. My house, I think I was able to get between 4 and 5 inches, depending on where I looked. And I mean, it's one of those deals. It's like, that's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
No.
It was the opposite of fun.
Well, and like we're being a little bit lighthearted about it, but like literally people have died.
Yes.
Because of this. And like, and I, when all of this was, ramping up, I think a lot of people up north are like, what's wrong with you guys? It's like, there's nothing wrong with us. We're just not prepared for this by any stretch of the imagination.
And it's not because we don't want to be prepared and we've chosen not to be prepared. It's that we don't have the same weather, and so houses are not built the same way.
Right.
We're not prepared because we don't need to be prepared for this type of thing. And then whenever it happens once in a lifetime, bad things happen.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy spending time hanging out over at Craig's house. We had fun. We played cards and other things.
Yeah.
We had fun. But I mean, I didn't get to sleep in my own bed, and he had to deal with me and my dog, and
That's cute.
yeah.
That's kind of cute though.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad you think so. But it's just not. It would have been better if we were like, "Hey, we're coming over for a couple hours. Then we're going home." That would have been awesome. But anyway,
It didn't happen like
didn't
that.
happen like that at all. So, but I think you were saying.
before I totally like lost my voice, and
Now that we've had the
mid-sentence, I
monologue
don't
for
think that's
10
ever
minutes.
happened before. Yeah, it's like, but that ought to tell you how the week's been. I mean,
absolutely.
it's literally been it's been kind of nutty, but we're getting through it.
Yeah,
I mean,
you told me that you got a generator at one of them. Did you guys lose power in Conroe?
No,
No.
because of the generator.
Oh, okay. That generator's there.
Navasota, we lost power for just a little bit.
Okay.
Staff was on that.
I had that flipped.
And
Okay.
again, the staff has been so awesome. We had at both homes, we had several caregivers that just said, you know what, I'll just stay here. And instead of going home tonight, to be with my family, the residents are, it's always residents first. And so they just made the commitment to, it's there's ice and snow on the road, just to stay in the homes.
Yeah.
And they just kind of worked as a team, and they've been there for 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to, it's not about me or the homes or the decor. It's just about the level of care that that each of our residents are getting. So when this is all over, there's a pretty good handful of caregivers that are on the team that we're going to be circling back to and really trying to bless them with something special, because they went
Above and beyond.
above and beyond this week.
Were you guys able to do much prep in order to get ready? I mean, because we had a pretty good heads up that this thing was coming, but like once everyone kind of caught wind, I mean, like stores were basically looted. I mean, were you guys able to do much prep?
Yeah, so we stay kind of prepped anyways. Just being a licensed facility, we have to, maintain X amount of water and non-perishable things and things like that. So, in those regards, for the most part, we were. In the instances where maybe we weren't underprepared, the staff stepped in and they brought things from home, or they cooked a meal at home and brought it to season. So that's kind of just speaks to who they are.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, And one of the other things I wanted to make sure that we talked about before we, kick you out into the cold for the night.
Thanks.
I mean, like we have a lot of guys and gals in the studio that operate businesses, and honestly, you operate on a different level than what I think a lot of other people operate at. You have a lot of stuff going on, and I think there's a lot of people. And so like I feel blessed to kind of have you in the studio. I mean, like you come in as like a personal favor to me, and like because like you're but like really, I mean, like you're operating at a high level, and I think a lot of people want to kind of arrive at where you're at right now, where you're like you've got a facility in Navasota, you got a facility in Conroe, you're fixing to open 2 more facilities. Where is your brain at, and how do you kind of wrap it around that every day? Because and I'll be honest. I mean, like, even though I operate a few things, man, it's difficult to kind of get up and go, okay, I've got this and this and this, and partition my brain up into multiple spaces and go, okay, I need to, separate so much activity of my brain to this and now to this. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. And thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. It helps to be aligned with my wife. I mean, we work as a team, right?
There you go.
And so that's just a portion of it. But, I try to maintain a growth mindset. I mean, I want to grow, personally during this process. At the end of the day, it's about service, and we want to help people. And, every day I just try to get up. I don't know how to say this. It's like I'm blissfully dissatisfied. So I'm happy, but I want to continue to grow. And so I don't want to rest on my laurels and just kind of, we got our 2 facilities. It's like, okay, I feel like we're doing a great job at this, and we know what we're doing. Let's grow.
Right.
And it keeps me young and by getting out and doing this sort of thing. But I've got a growth mindset of just wanting to do more. And so it's kind of weird because a lot of people would say, oh man, you've got this, you've got that, you should be totally just in a place of zen and happiness. And I only stay there for just a little bit. I actually have to kind of work toward that.
Yeah.
I kind of wake up and I'm just ready to, jump on whatever the next thing is. So it's kind of a weird thing, but anyways.
When you say that, zen and bliss to me feels like a dangerous place to go, because if I go there, then I stop. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And it's I think it's real easy for people to get stuck and just get very complacent. And again, so a lot of that is kind of born out of a desire to just want more for myself and my family. I feel like it is my personal obligation to them to, create success and provide opportunities that they normally wouldn't have. I mean, that's a straight up conviction that I have. And so, a lot of that work ethic and things like that is kind of derived from that. It's some of it's obligation. Yeah.
So I can keep talking like this for a long time if you want to, or we could do the final 4. It's really up to you.
Bring on whatever you guys are down for, man. I'm good. I'm having fun. It's super cold outside. I do know the temps are going to drop here in just a bit. If they, have y'all even looked? It's probably. I think it's already dipped into the 20s. In the 20s. Yeah, so, and I've got to drive, but we can. I'm good.
Well, I know we're going to talk again. Let's hit the Kevin, I didn't let you intro the final 4. I'm sorry.
I was about to ask.
Hang on, I got to get ready for this.
What are you doing? It's like you're stepping on toes.
To be fair, you always get to ask the questions. I don't ever get to do the awkward
do you
transition.
Want to ask the questions this
No,
time,
I don't want to
Craig?
ask the questions. I want to do the awkward transfer.
Because this is my final 4.
The final 4.
That's right. So obviously the most anticipated segment of the entire show. The crazy thing is, we've done this with you before, and
so you're gonna have to go back
100 episodes ago.
Yeah,
100 episodes.
Okay,
a lot's changed.
A lot has changed, but do I never get invited back if I use the same answers?
No, you probably actually will get invited back if you have different answers. That way we'll know things change.
That's right.
All right. Well, bring it on. Let's do it.
Also, if we know that they change, I mean, like you haven't been sitting in Zen and bliss.
All right. Yeah.
That's right.
No Zen and bliss here. All right. Let's do it.
All right, so here are the final 4 questions. We're going to start with the first one, like we always do. What is the must-have tool that you won't leave your house without?
Cell phone.
There it is.
It has not changed.
Yeah,
my head would roll off my shoulders if it were not for my cell phone.
You haven't upgraded like an iPad Pro
I know. I need to put it down more, but never leave on without it.
Well, I mean, especially whenever you do have your hands in a lot of different pots. You got family, you got business, you got all kinds of things that you're dealing with. And if you're a podcast type of person, and I know you are, and you listen to a lot of different things, self-help and, all these different things, like you have to have all of that in a location for you to access it quickly and easily. There's not another tool out there, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right. So since this is the number one answer that we get, I'm going to add an addendum to the question top 3 apps.
Oh. Well, hey, whoa. We haven't even talked about this. This is
cutting it.
Wild. Wild and crazy, y'all.
Script here, guys.
He's just going all over the place. He didn't get to answer questions.
At my phone?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that okay if I look at my phone?
I mean, it will tell you if you just look at your productivity.
Yeah, dude, I don't want to even.
Nobody wants to look at that. Nobody.
my top favorite app or top 3 app.
Yeah.
I would say Instagram.
Okay.
I took a big break off of Facebook for a long time. That feels really good, by the way.
Oh, nice.
But I do love Instagram because there's no rabbit holes you can follow.
Was your Facebook sabbatical, was that part of the 75 hard?
No, but it was a little bit.
A little bit?
It was during the time. I mean, I went long. I went like 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And man, ignorance can be bliss, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, literally what you don't know. Because,
I think you picked a great time to get off, too. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, because, dude, there are so many rabbit holes and things that can take your energy. But,
yes.
Dude, I'd have to say Instagram. This is embarrassing. Probably our doorbell app and like the weather.
Dude,
I'm like a weather junkie. It's like, I don't know. I'm always look at the weather.
So what app do you use for weather?
Just the iPhone. Well, no, I take that back. I've got a couple that I jump back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, so I use the iPhone app for the weather, but if I need to dig a little deeper and see some radar clouds, then I'll use, I think it's called Weather.
Okay.
But it's a why do you guys have something that
I've got a couple.
Weatherbug.
Oh,
Weatherbug? I know a lot of people use that one.
Yeah, Weatherbug used to be huge, and then people stopped talking about it for a little while, but they're still very much around. But I've got 2 that I use that I love. One of them is called Radar Scope, and Radar Scope is really, really good. It does incredible stuff with radar. You can see lightning strikes, all different kinds of really cool stuff.
Wow.
And then the other one that I've gotten away from, like the native weather app, and like a lot of people use the Weather Channel, that kind of stuff. I use another app called Dark Sky, and Dark Sky is the amount of information that it gives you is mind-boggling. I'll have to show you whenever we're done here. It's really, really cool. So, anyway.
I just follow a couple of people on Facebook that actually know what they're talking about.
Right.
I have no idea. Like,
yeah.
I've got a friend from college, Katie. I don't know what her new last name is. It used to be Petrie, but she's a meteorologist. And I just
follow
go
her.
I just go to her Facebook page, and she'll just like, if there's something crazy happening, she's like, hey, just get ready for this.
So Katie Petrie dishes it up.
She does.
Sorry.
I see what you did there.
Okay, that was really, really
back
bad.
to the final.
All right, back to the final 4. Here we go. Second question. You know the drill. What's a job you've walked away from? Could be a project. It could even be a plumbing project. I don't know.
Cast iron.
I'm just throwing it out there. Just being willy-nilly about it. But what's a job or a project that you've walked away from?
Well, I think my answer 100 episodes ago was anything electrical. All right, but now the answer is it's plumbing. Like especially if there's waste involved. Like forget about it.
Yeah,
like,
I'm out.
Anything past just doing a couple quick little plunges in the toilet. Anything beyond that, dude, I'm out.
Yeah,
no thanks.
No, I'm with you. I feel you on that.
Yeah,
that's bad. So, all right. Next question. how do you wind down at the end of a long day?
My answer's probably still the same. A little glass of red wine is a good way to wind down.
Yeah.
And if I wind down, sometimes I just wind down. But,
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but for the most part, I have these. My wife and I have these little shows recorded. A lot of that is just watching whatever she's recorded and just being there for that. And that's having a glass of wine and relaxing. And
You guys have a DVR?
we do have a DVR. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
It is still
so
a thing.
retro of
But
you.
yeah, I know. We stream a lot of stuff too. Yeah, dude, our viewing, it's a whole nother episode, right? It's all over the board. I'm a documentary junkie. So
Yeah, okay.
I'll fall asleep to a lot of stuff like that. So
What's the best one you've seen in the last 6 months?
Oh, dude. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
There was one that we watched this week. Actually, you should check it out on Netflix. It's about It's called the Hotel Cecil. It's on Netflix. Crime scene. Just you got to check it out.
Is this like a true crime documentary?
Yeah,
okay,
a little bit, but it's only 3 episodes. Very fascinating. Check it out.
I just knew you were going to say Tiger King. I knew it.
No, dude. No.
Is that a documentary? I thought that was like a reality series.
It's
a little bit
it's
of
nutso.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. That's why I'm asking. I'm not gonna, but
I don't know if there's actually a word for it. There's probably multiple words for it, but I don't know. You can sum it up really.
Craig, I wouldn't even know where to start to describe Tiger King to you.
No, it's
like I grew up next to a tiger. Like I don't feel like I need to watch a show about people who own them. I mean, like.
You should. This could change your perspective, but just check it out, dude. Like when you have absolutely nothing better to do.
I hope that never happens.
I know.
all right. Yeah, no doubt.
Moving on.
All right, last question. What's one of the best pieces of wisdom or advice you've ever received?
Oh man, dude, that's tough because I know I've been given probably a lot of advice, and some of it again I probably haven't taken. I think the big thing for me right now is just trying to take massive effective action. Whatever it is you do, just take massive action and really focus and stay the course. A lot of folks have what I refer to as the SOS, the shiny object syndrome, right? So they start on one thing, and before they even give it enough time to mature or develop, there's lots of shiny objects out there. Oh, I'm going to go do this or go do that, and I think it's incredibly important to just get really, really good at doing one thing, and not getting so distracted by all the shiny objects out there. That some of those things can be explored at a later time, but that's just me, man. Focus.
It's good.
It's a good one.
Yep, definitely. I think that it's really easy to get sidetracked. Man, we all, and honestly, going back to that tool, we get distracted all the time with that.
Oh, dude,
It's a distraction machine.
Yeah, it's why we don't want to look at that, productivity
exactly.
information.
No.
Nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know.
No.
Well, cool, man. Thank you for coming back and braving the weather to get here. So yeah, thanks for coming. It's been really, really good. I mean, I doing what you do during the last year, it just blows my mind. But man, I appreciate you doing it well.
Thanks for having me back, guys. I really appreciate it. It's always good to see you guys.
Yeah.
And I love to, kind of following y'all and watching your growth. And if there's anything that we can do to help you down the road, let us know.
Cool.
Well, hopefully it's much further down the road.
Yeah.
Craig, I'm going to leave the light on for you.
Thank you, man. I'll stay there.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, thank you guys that are listening right now for tuning in. And those of you who are live on Facebook, thank you for downloading. For those who are listening to the audio podcast, and we'll be coming out to you on Thursday through YouTube. But until then, if you would do us a favor, go to iTunes, leave us a rating and review, subscribe to the podcast, do those things. Really, really helps us out. We're here each and every single Tuesday. So thanks for being with us. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See you.